Hey friends, welcome to the Johnson City Living Podcast, where we learn about the people, places, events, and flavors that make Johnson City a lovely place to live. I'm your host, Colin Johnson, with the Colin and Carly Group and Keller Williams Realty. It is a beautiful fall morning here in Johnson City. The leaves are falling, the air is crisp and cool. It's not as cool as my friends used to, but it's getting a little chilly here. So put on a jacket and come listen to our podcast. I'm here and excited for you guys to meet my new friend, Chris Dodge, husband, father, friend of mine now, ex-Manian, I don't know, Tasmania?
Maniac,
ex-Mainer. He's from the Maine land, the land of Maine. Anyway, I am super excited for you guys to get to meet Chris. He's just a super good dude. So welcome to the podcast, Chris.
Thank you, Colin. I appreciate it.
We are, I'm excited because you're like one of these stories that I was hoping would happen from kind of going through this podcast. So tell the audience how you came to be in Johnson City and sitting across the table from me.
Yeah, well, it was kind of a fun story. It really started where we got the knack for travel. We really wanted to get out there, hike and explore more and see if more of God's beautiful creation. Mm-hmm. And we really fell in love with that. Mm-hmm. And we had this desire to see all the national parks. Now, I don't know if we'll hit every single national park. So far, we are like 3. So we have a long way to go.
Do we know?
There's I can't even remember. I should know that if that's my goal. But
there's like 350 and you got 3.
It's ridiculous. Hey. I'm like only the major parks, like some of the historic stuff, like that's cool. But like I want to just hit some of the major parks. But
your girls are young. You got time.
Yeah, we got plenty of time. Yeah. So anyways, the Smokies were one of the closest ones. And we never been to Tennessee. Well, my wife had, but she was way too young. She has no idea.
Yeah.
She don't remember it. But anyway, so we wanted to go to the Smokies. Heard it was an amazing place. And that was it. That was the big plan. We were going to camp down all the way through. And as we went, God said, I have something for you guys on this trip. I want to speak something to you. And we're like, awesome. That sounds great. So we were just listening the whole time. Mm-hmm. And what was cool is that as we were mapping it all out, this guy that we used to follow all the time, Manny Montgomery, he was in a band for Today. We listened to all his music. Love the guy. Love his heart.
Super good dude.
Totally sold out for Christ.
Shout out to
an
Manny.
Amazing, awesome guy.
Yeah, he's awesome.
And we just loved his ministry. And when he stopped doing music and he went to go do to start a church, it was in Johnson City. And so I was like, well, it's close enough. It's in Tennessee. We'll visit it someday. We'll go visit it, and that's it. Like, that was the big plan. And little did we know that's going to be our church. But anyway, so we as we were mapping it out, we're like, wow, we go right by Johnson City. So we're going to make sure that on a Sunday we'll be there, and we'll make sure that we're there. So that's exactly what we did. We spent 3 hours in Johnson City. We went to the church service. We went to right in front of the library, there's that park that's there.
Yes.
And we had a picnic.
Playground, I think they call it.
Yeah, super cool.
It is super cool.
Kids loved it. The girls
I need to build a big adult size one.
Yeah. So I play with it anyway, so, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Whether I'm allowed to or not, I do. So I was sitting on the hill, and we're just looking at the Johnson City sign.
Yeah.
And Buffalo Mountain in the background. I didn't even know it was Buffalo Mountain at the time. Just like, that's a cool mountain. And it was just beautiful. And I just felt like something so different there. But I couldn't put my finger on it. And God didn't speak anything. He didn't say anything significant. It was like he was highlighting that. It was just like, hey, I want you to pay attention because it's actually a very important moment that I want you to look back on. But I didn't know at that time. So it was just highlighting it. Mm-hmm. So fast forward, we go to the Smokies, have a great time. It was awesome. Enjoyed all the trails there.
Except for all the traffic and Sevierville.
No, it wasn't that bad, actually.
That's
it was
good.
In May.
Oh, okay.
And it was like right before everything got busy. And as we were leaving, it's like you could see the massive amount of people coming. Yeah.
Like, we're getting out of here at the perfect time.
Yeah, right. No, it wasn't really that bad. It really was. It was awesome. And we absolutely loved it. So we leave, and we actually did Shenandoah, and we did all kinds of other things on the way back. But Virginia and West Virginia didn't feel the same as Tennessee. Mm-mm. And I had never seen, I've been to West Virginia, I've been to Virginia, but I hadn't seen it like I had seen it like that. And it was so beautiful and amazing. I was like, man, this should feel better, but it just didn't. And it's because that wasn't the plan. That wasn't what God was having for our life. And so We just couldn't shake that feeling. So we just started praying about it. We're like, we're going to bury this. We're going to just, if it's meant to, it's going to grow. And if it's not, it's going to die.
Yeah.
And I got that actually from Matty Montgomery,
Yeah.
too.
He's told me. He said the same thing. It'll die on the vine
Yeah.
if it's not meant from
Well, it
God.
didn't take very long for it to just grow significantly
Yeah.
because something happened to me that's never happened to me before. I had a vision, and
cool.
I've never had that. It was just... it wasn't, it wasn't a dream. It was something as I was praying, God just started showing me something. And he showed me in this field, and he showed the mountain. And what I didn't know at the time in the vision, it was Buffalo Mountain. It was a different angle, and I understand that now, but it was Buffalo Mountain. And I see this fire starting on the top of it.
Oh, wow.
And then it starts spreading out and going down. And then God takes me up and shows me that it's just going throughout the city. And I was like, what is going on? What am I looking at? And he said, I'm starting a fire in Johnson City. And I was like, well, that's cool. And I should mention, too, as the fire is spreading, it's not consuming and burning and destroying.
Right.
It's just like the burning bush kind of situation.
It's like exciting.
Yeah. So it's not destructive. It's exciting. Yeah, like
Passionate.
you said. Exactly.
Right. There's a
new
life.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's happening. And then as he's taking me up higher, it's like a campfire that's crackling and popping, and embers are flying out and going to all over the places in country. And I was like, what am I seeing right now? And he's like, well, that's embers shooting off, and they're catching the fire, and now I'm calling them back into the fire. And so I was like, okay, well, are we one of those embers? And then the vision was over. He didn't say anything else. And I've always said that following God is really an adventure. And when you say yes to Christ, you're saying yes to an adventure.
Oh,
and
sure.
if you really follow him, he'll take you to crazy places. And,
And it doesn't make sense to anybody. Like from the outside looking at it, you're like, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Exactly.
But he sees the plan. He knows.
It's like from beginning to end. Yeah, he's seeing the whole process.
Yeah,
so,
the start and end of our lives already. So.
Yeah, so it's a beautiful thing, really.
Oh, it's amazing.
To follow that, but it's like in the process, we just struggle to kind of find our place for it. But you look back, you go, oh, my word, that made a lot of sense.
Yeah. Tell me, just real quick, I'm going to jump in.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people probably are like, yeah, he had a vision or the Lord spoke to him. I mean, I know the Lord speaks to me in my heart, but tell me, and like our listeners, how did that kind of play out? What have you been doing to put yourself in a place where, the Lord, you could hear his voice or see a vision that he provided for you?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question, too, because it seems foreign. It seems foreign where, that's not something that happens every day.
Right.
And so I've always felt like, I'm nothing special. I'm nothing more unique than anybody else. Anybody else can experience the same exact thing as I'm having. In fact, I try to encourage people.
Sure.
I'm like, you like some of the crazy stories that I have of things that God has done, it's not because of me, it's because of God. So if it's not because of me, you could do the same thing too.
Oh, yeah.
And it even says, in scripture that Elijah was a man just like us. Mm-hmm. Well, Elijah did crazy things. He rose the dead. Mm-hmm. He did all these crazy things that we don't do on a normal basis. We don't do it in our daily life.
But I hope I'll just ascend into heaven one day.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Cool. So I think that when you just sit there and you cultivate that relationship, and that is exactly what it is. Right. I tell people it's not a religion, it's a relationship. Yep. It's a hands down something you have to pursue. He pursues you, you pursue him. It's a relationship. Yeah. And as you get closer, you start seeing these things. And what that looks like is really just getting in the Word, getting into fellowship, getting into service, getting into prayer, where you spend time in just quiet. I've heard it recently. It was really cool. It's like we live in such a busy world that no wonder we don't hear God's voice, because we're just hearing everything else. Just silence everything.
It's being competed with.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's a tool.
And that's what I was doing a lot at that time. I mean, coronavirus came through, wiped out every known thing that was that was fun in life.
We made it. You and I and Mitch.
So we're the lone survivors.
That's right.
So as that's happening, everything's quiet anyways. And I was like, this is a good moment to stop the busyness, to stop doing that and change life. What's the pace of life going to look like? And what's it going to be spending more time with God? What's that going to look like? And that's exactly what I did. So to answer the question really in a long-winded way is to focus on just pursuing him
Mm-hmm.
and seeking him, and just see, he loves to show off.
Oh, he does.
So ask him to show off. He'll show off.
Yeah.
And that's what's amazing about it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So-
Okay, so sorry I cut in there.
No, that's a great question.
Yeah, I
so
think it's good for our listeners to just learn, more about prayer, meditation,
Absolutely.
being quiet, sitting still,
absolutely. Yeah.
and then seeing him things like the mountains.
Yeah.
He's everywhere, but for here, every time this morning driving in, mountains, beautiful. Just,
Yeah. As the sun's
His
rising.
glory
Oh,
is
so
like the
great.
sun. It's just unbelievable. So yeah,
So I get this vision,
Yeah.
and we don't have an answer on that.
you're
So-
like, am I an ember or not? I don't
yeah,
know.
right.
But
So we
we're
just
gonna-
kept asking that. And it was on our anniversary. This was a common practice we used to do. We would sit by a campfire while we were camping. The girls would be in bed in the tent or cabin, wherever we're at. And me and my wife would just sit there and listen for what God might be saying. We have specific requests sometimes. We'd have certain things, but we would just sit there and watch the fire and just listen for what he had to say. And that was our big specific prayer that we kept praying. Are we an ember? Are we an ember? Are we an ember? And that night, as he was highlighting that very thing in the fire, he's like, you see the embers in that? That's exactly what I'm calling you to be. I want you into the fire. I want you there. You're going to be a part of this. And I was like, all right, we're all in. Let's do this. We're ready. So there was a lot of things that need to happen at that point. Moving 1,000 miles away isn't just an easy, like, okay, we decided we're good to go. Let's go.
Yeah, because you're almost
So-
as far away as possible.
Exactly, yeah. So we start looking at houses. This podcast was a huge help, honestly. And I
Well,
just
I
wanted to
appreciate
say that
that.
anyways, because we spent 3 hours in the city. We knew nothing about where we were going. And I was like, we need some resources. We need to find out some things. And I was like, when I saw this podcast, I was like, I'm listening to every episode. I'm doing this. And so to anyone listening at all that, like, you're like, I don't know about this whole Johnson City Living thing. Like, you should do it because it's amazing.
Yeah, we'd love to
get
have
resources.
you on here. Yeah, and listen to it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's been awesome to hear just the heartbeat of the city, really, like understanding who people are and everything. And so as we started doing that, and Colin, you're great because you know everybody in the whole entire city. So I was immediately connected to the one who knew everybody.
Well,
so
yeah, not quite, but I know
it
a
was
few
great.
people. Yeah.
Well, with so many people coming in, I understand it's not everybody, but
Right.
it's pretty darn close at
Yeah.
this point. So anyways,
Thank you for that.
so we call you. I'm like, hey, I want you to be our realtor. Can you help us out? And so as we're praying, as we're looking for properties, it's this crazy mess of people coming in, and it's hard to find.
You came
anywhere.
at the worst time ever,
It was, yeah. And so
or the best time ever for if you're selling a house.
yeah, right, exactly. So as we were doing that, Sarah my wife, she finds this new build that's that's going down, and I was like, I don't know, that seems kind of crazy. I've never been a part of that.
Yeah.
We did a renovation on our house, and I was like, that was supposed to be like a quick month to kind of 3-month process, end up being like a year.
Right.
So I was like, how long is a build gonna take?
Yeah.
Like I was like nervous about this whole thing.
Yeah, I was too.
And DHR,
DR Horton.
DR Horton,
Yeah.
sorry. DR Horton, I you think I get the name right by now, but I've screwed it up way
You
too
gave
many
them enough
times.
money.
So-
You should.
DR Horton.
They've got your number right.
Right. So DR Horton did a phenomenal job. They started building this house, and we were like, this is what we want. This is where God's leading, and specifically that neighborhood.
Yeah.
And we knew it was that neighborhood because he said, that's where I want you. And he has a specific purpose for that. We're still figuring out what that is, but he has us there.
There are a lot of neighbors in there.
Yeah, exactly. And so it was cool because God works in this crazy way, as I said, as you journey through this. And it's so funny because the way it works, the simplified version of how it works is they do 4 houses at a time, and you put in for 1 or 2 of those houses, and you either get picked or not. Some people are in the system that have been there
Yes, they have
for
a
like,
long laundry list of
yeah,
people
like
waiting.
from all over the place,
All over the place.
that might come in. We've discovered that too. We were like second on a house, and we lost that.
Yeah.
Somebody from like 2019 came in. They're like, yeah, I want that. That sounds good.
Isn't that crazy?
So like that's how the whole process works. And so every week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it was, we kept getting a call from Matt, who's our agent there, and also shout out to Matt Bright
Matt
because
Bright,
he's
the man.
awesome.
That's right.
And so I felt awful for him because he constantly kept calling me and be like, hey, Chris, I'm sorry to tell you, but unfortunately you didn't get the house. was like, dang it. And
Yeah.
so it happened 6 times. And
Isn't that crazy?
To the point where I was really losing hope that this was ever
You're
going
like,
to
Sarah,
happen.
I don't know that he's
Yeah, I was
calling
like,
us
did I
to this
hear him wrong?
neighborhood.
Yeah. I was like, was it supposed to be Jonesboro? Like, was it, I'm not sure. But anyways, so as we do this, we're down to the last 4. So it's the last pick. That's it. This is it. We get it or we don't. And that's usually how God works anyways. He brings it right to the very end and says, hey, guess what? I'm going to do it. And I'd love to say I was this man full of faith that was like, yes, he said it. I'm standing firm on the word.
That's right.
But it wasn't like that. It was like, oh gosh, am I wrong? Like, am I hearing this wrong? Like, what? Like, I was questioning everything in life at that point. And so, so when Matt called me and he said, hey, you got the house, I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. I guess we'll look for another place, whatever. He goes, no, like, you didn't hear me. You got the house.
You got this one.
And
Chris. You didn't. Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, cool, yeah. And he went on. He's like, okay, so this is the next thing we do. We start, and I'm like processing this. I'm not really realizing, and it was funny because I hang up and I was like, we got the house. It was this moment, like light bulb moment. I was like, I can't believe we got the house. So I called my wife. And I was like, we got the house, and she's like all excited and stuff. She's like, well, what do we do now? I'm like, I don't know. I said a lot of things, but I didn't hear. So I called him back and I was like, hey Matt, I felt like the Lego movie. I was like, I was listening, but I didn't hear anything you said. Can you say it again?
Kind of passed out there for a minute.
So he explained graciously everything over again. I was like, this is awesome. So we got the house. Well, God had spoken that when things start moving, things are going to happen fast. Right. And this is what happened. This was a crazy unraveling of events that started happening. So as that happened, we then that was our barometric of everything else that was going to happen, because we have a build time. We needed that build time so that we could time everything else up. And the next step was we need a townhouse or an apartment or something to stay, because for the financial aspect of it, you need to be in town. And so we needed that in the time being. So I reached out to you. I asked, do you know anybody? And you're like, talk to Millard. He works for me. He's a great guy. Come to find out, he's part of our church, which is awesome. He's part of the altar.
He's up on the bass and his wife's singing.
Yeah, exactly.
They're in the worship band.
Awesome guy too. So my wife calls him and she's like, hey, we need this, and like gave all the specifics. And he said, that's almost impossible, right? And I was like, I know. I've been following this. Yeah. I'm aware that what we're asking is the most ridiculous thing ever. And so he's like, well, I'll see what I can do. And the next day, Sarah found by chance, just not by chance, because God really highlighted that again too, but that there was a townhouse available. And we were so jaded by like not getting picked that we put in for it. We're like, oh, let's see what happens. Yeah. And they contact us right away. They're like, hey, you got the apartment. This is great, whatever. And we were like, we're still like, are you sure we got the apartment? Like, is this one of those things where like there's a million people coming in?
Yeah, are you from Africa and send you $10,000 to get you out of jail? Kind of
exactly. And we hadn't even been to the place. We didn't even see it. So we're like, we're just going to have to take the risk. We're going to go for it. So we get that. And that's just a crazy thing that like the day before, Millard was like, it's impossible. And it is. He's not wrong. It was impossible.
It was very difficult to find a rental or a house, period.
Exactly.
And then for him to show up and just give you a temporary rental.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, so that was huge. So we did that. We were in Sterling Hills. That was awesome. That was great being there. And then the next thing we need to do is we need to sell our house. So we talked to our realtor in Maine, and we put it on the market. And it was really funny because he came by. He's like, hey, do you have an idea of what price you want for the house? And I said, well, God told me a number. I think it's kind of crazy. He went to our church in Maine too, so it was kind of a cool connection we had. But anyways, he's like, okay, what's the number? I tell him the number. He flips the paper around. He goes, this is what the value is. It was the exact number, pretty much. And we're like, oh, okay. And he's like, so I think that's what we need to do. We need to put it at that number and go with that. So he took like 3 pictures of the house. He's like, we're going to get a professional photographer. We're going to get everything taken care of. We'll do the whole thing. But right now I'm just going to post it so that it's available. People could see it. But like if they want any questions, like they'll have to go through it, but I'm not expecting a whole lot. So I'm like, cool, sounds good. So I got up the next morning. My phone has a million messages on it. I was like, what is going on? I'm getting emails, phone calls. He's texted me. He's like, did you see my email? Did you see my email? And I was like, no. So I look.
No, bro, I'm sleeping.
Yeah, right. I was like, it's like 5 o'clock in the morning. I didn't see it.
Yeah.
So
realtor guys.
So it was less than 5 hours. Our house was on the market. And we got an offer for $30,000 more than we were asking for. We were just blown away. We're like, this is crazy.
Holy cow.
And the coolest part is the couple that wanted the house, they're from Tennessee.
They traded out.
And
Where are they from?
They're from Memphis, actually.
Okay.
So it's a little bit different.
It's a lot hotter down there.
Yeah. And well,
More
I
than
should
Memphis.
say
I know it well.
it's a lot different.
It's a lot different.
over there. But anyways, so it was just this really cool thing. Where that was just like God, like showing off, really. He was like, look, I'm going to bring somebody in. They're going to give you $30,000 more, and they're going to be from Tennessee, just to kind of top it off, right?
Just to show off a little bit.
And it's going to be within 5 hours. It's
Yeah.
going to happen. I was like, this is crazy. And so as this is all happening, this is within a week. So talk about fast. Like, this is like we get the house, we get the townhouse, we sell our house. And I was like, this is just absolutely crazy. And Sarah texted me in the morning. I was at work, and she's like, are you aware of what's happening right now in Johnson City? I was like, no. And she showed me a picture, and it was Buffalo Mountain on fire. And I was like, oh, my gosh, are you serious? And I was like, my first thought was, oh, is this going to burn, like, our new development? Is this going to burn, like, people's houses? Are we going to have a city to go to? Like, I had all these thoughts at first. Like, this isn't good. And she goes, no, do you remember the vision? Like,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, my gosh.
That's hilarious.
And turns out, it was all contained. It didn't damage
Yep.
anybody's houses or property and stuff. We lost some good woods, but it'll grow back, fortunately.
It's healthy.
So,
for us to
and
burn.
I was up there. I mean, it was very healthy. It was awesome. So, anyways, all of this was happening. Well, literally, the mountain was on fire, just like the vision.
You're like,
And so,
see, he's like, I told you, Chris.
right. So it's just this crazy story. This is how God works, and this is how He operates. And fast forward to today, I'm here, and we're just absolutely loving it. So just super thankful, and thankful for our church. Thank you for the altar, the work that Manny's done to set that up. It's been awesome, and it's a team effort. There's so many people
Oh my gosh,
behind
he's
it.
got so many people that are fantastic working with him.
Yeah, and it's just been awesome. It's they do family really well.
Yeah.
So going in there, you get connected very fast,
Mm-hmm.
and we have people that have just brought us in, and it's been awesome to have that relationship with people, and it takes church family to a whole new level.
Yeah.
Because that's the culture that we're like cultivating in this. We're like, this is your church family, and we say that a lot, but then we still like in church culture we'll still segregate and separate and do different things. But when you're a family, like you can't do that. Like you really operate as a unit together, and that's what they do really well. And so I found that really quickly, and just it's been awesome. So.
Yeah. Time and time again, we were talking. I was just like, man, it's difficult, but yet the Lord just keeps showing up and just taking care of everything that you needed taken care of.
Absolutely.
I mean, it was just amazing. So you've been in Johnson City for how long now?
We have been here since May.
Okay.
So it was like May we took off to go do
Yeah.
the Smoky Mountain trip, and we spent 3 hours here, and then we moved in May. So it was like exactly a year pretty much from the time that we set off, and God was highlighting that spot in Johnson City.
What's your favorite thing about Johnson City now? Just being a newcomer, I think it'd be good because we get a lot of people who lived here for a long time. But
right.
somebody new in the area, what do you see?
Well, it's
just
really
awesome.
funny because I knew that this question was going to come up because I've listened to the podcast, obviously, and I knew this is the number one question. And I thought I want to come up with like a super unique, cool answer, right? That nobody else has come up with.
There's this little pizza joint in the back of the mall,
Yeah, like something so like unique
random.
or whatever. I was like, I'm going to be the guy who says that. And as I just kept thinking about that question, I was like, no, it's not even that I can't come up with something unique. It's that the people are so awesome. The community is so great. Everyone's so nice. And the mountains are amazing. So it's literally those two things that we constantly get for the same answers. I have to say it's the same thing. It's nothing unique about it because the land already is unique. Like
so
as an example of how nice people are, like it was funny. I called gas stations. I was looking for propane tank. I was like, I need to find out who sells propane tanks. I needed one for a fireplace thing that we're doing. So I'm asking for propane tanks. I'm calling gas stations. Gas attendants aren't necessarily always the friendliest people in the world. I'm like, hey, do you sell any propane tanks? And it's like, yeah, we have some. I was like, okay, what are the prices for them? And normally I was expecting like, hold on.
Yeah.
Like that kind of answer.
Oh, you want to know a price for it?
Yeah. Oh, I had to get up. I had to do this. But nobody was like that. Everybody was like, yeah, sure. Let me go get it. They go get the price. Oh, this is the taxes involved. They like go through. It's like, oh, can I help you carry it to your
We
car?
can even
Like,
fill it up for you.
Yeah.
We can set up a service. We can bring it out to your house. And
right.
hook
Exactly.
it up if you want.
It was just like something as simple as that was awesome. And people here are just super friendly. So
Yeah, I think, and I tell people when they're moving here, it's the kind of place where if you had a flat tire, within minutes, people are going to stop and say, "Hey, you need help," and that kind of thing. It's not going to. I mean, probably within seconds, you're going to have a couple people.
right.
And some dude's going to jump out, change your tire like a
Yeah.
NASCAR guy, and you're going to be back on the road in a minute. So, yeah. All right. What are your I'm going to ask you a question about your girls. What do your girls like to do for fun in Johnson City?
What they like to do, they love church.
Because they're how old now?
We have 9 and 5.
9 and 5. Yeah.
Yes. And they love church, love their friends. They've gotten a quick group of friends so far, which has been awesome. That's been a huge blessing to us because, they're brand new, going to a new place, and we don't know anybody. Like, we literally came here not knowing anybody.
Yeah.
And so to be connected so quickly was awesome. They love going for walks in our neighborhood.
Yeah.
That's another thing. It's so funny, like, how these little things are like so important. They love seeing the mountains too. We've worked hard to kind of cultivate an appreciation for God's creation, and they've just adapted that so well.
That's
and
cool.
We'll be driving, I'll be like, "Guys, do you see this mountain right here?" And they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing!" And like, it's so cool, like how we're surrounded by it,
Right.
And it's a beautiful place.
Well,
so.
good for you, though, that you're teaching and kind of cultivating that because a lot of stuff's caught more than taught, right? They watch you and Sarah,
absolutely.
they're like, oh, wow. They're like recognizing that the Lord made this tree or this
Right.
mountain or, whatever. This salamander or whatever we've got around here.
They're cool salamanders too. Saw
We
one
got
in
tons
Buffalo
of cool
Mountain.
salamanders, yeah.
It's like a bright orange one. It was
Ooh,
super cool.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Okay. So you are working and you're doing also some blogging, right? Or
Yeah, so
tell us about that in your YouTube channel a little bit too.
So one of the things I needed a job right away, and so I started working before I left for a site. It was kind of funny. I had found one of our YouTube videos that we had made ended up on this site, and I found it, and I was like, "What the heck is this site?" And I'm looking around, and it's called Only Interstate. And it was just this cool site that highlights amazing places to hike, events, restaurants, cool stores, and stuff like that. It's a tourist like place where it's like you go and you find out all the unique things.
It's called Only in Your State.
Only in your state because they focus on each individual state, and they have
Smart.
state writers for those states. And so I emailed them and I said, "Hey, I want to be your next writer." And I think I might have even said something like, "I'm going to be your next writer."
Be your next writer. I'm already working on an article.
With full confidence. I was like, "I'm gonna do this. This is what I want." And I had an interview, and just the whole site blew me away. I was like, "This is a really cool place, and I want to be involved with this." This is something that they're encouraging people to get outside and explore and do these things. That's like they're like 10 years down the road to what I want to do. I want to jump on this now.
Yeah.
And so. Because that's one thing that we've really tried to do. We try to encourage people to get outside and enjoy the amazing things that God's created.
For sure.
And so they're like, all right, let's try it out. We do the training and stuff. Works really well. End up working up through. And now I'm a state writer so state writer focuses on just the specific state, and you'll have a certain assignments and stuff you have to do each week. And I'm the state writer for Maine, and I'm the state writer for Tennessee.
What?
And that was kind of cool because when they heard that I was moving to Tennessee, they're like, "We need a state writer for Tennessee, and we want somebody that's there." And I was like, "Well, I'll be there, So like, I'll do this." But it's funny because I'm learning so much because I don't know enough about. I didn't know anything about Tennessee until a year ago.
Right.
When I started looking at the Smoky Mountains. So like, I'm learning all kinds of different things now and exploring all kinds of different things that I get to write about and encourage other people to do. So. That's basically it, yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Tell our listeners, too, about your YouTube channel.
Yeah, so that kind of pairs perfectly with the writing job, too, because we started out about 2 years ago now, I think, where we started documenting all the stuff that we were doing when traveling, and we call it Venturing in the Moment, because unlike most people that like go out and they have a plan and they have a schedule and they know all kinds of things about the area and they can tell all kinds of cool facts, we just were like, we're in the moment. Sometimes we'll find a sign that's those wonderful brown signs that show like parks and stuff. Those are just like the places we'll go. And so while we're traveling, we might just happen to go in a trail that we don't know anything about. And so it's really we are adventuring in the moment, like that very moment. And so
I love it.
So we started traveling and showcasing things, and we did a bunch of stuff in Maine, New Hampshire. We did the whole trip last year. We went down to the Smokies and stuff, and that's been a huge passion of mine, to go out and find these things and unique places that nobody else has seen. You
got all kinds of stuff. You have 140 videos on here.
That's do we really?
Yeah.
That's a lot. I knew we were over 100. I know 140. So, yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and we realized early on that, like, staying consistent with releases is really important. So, like, every week we have a video out. I work hard to make sure that happens, and it gets harder in the winter months. It might be better here because we'll be able to do more here. But, yeah, so we try to do that, and we do hikes and all kinds of amazing things and showcase the whole thing as we go.
Yeah, it looks cool. I'm excited to explore, and I just subscribed. So if you're listening, subscribe to this channel and check it out.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I think it's just amazing that with technology, you can go different places, see different people's perspectives on things, read different things about different places, and you kind of get immersed and feel a part of it. And then you can go explore it for yourself and get your own kind of take on it. It's just really cool. Or you can go, well, I read about, Boise, Idaho. I'm not going to go there.
Right. That's one thing that we try to do. We don't necessarily have all the facts. We don't necessarily have all the information as we go. But what we're doing is we're showcasing what we're experiencing. Mm-hmm. And this is something that we started getting inspired by. We started following certain YouTube channels. One big, huge ones, California Through My Lens. And Through My Lens, those are his channels. This guy named Josh.
Yeah.
And a guy channel named America's Parks. They go to all these crazy places. Now, California, its focus is just on California. And all these other places that they go. And I love what they did. And I was like, I want to do that. That's exactly what I want to do. And it really inspired us to get out there. And we're working on it. We're not as up to date as they are. Like they've been doing it for a long time, over like 10 years or something like that. And I've been doing it for 2. I never picked up a camera really before that. My wife's a photographer, so she showed me some things. But you'll see as you watch videos, like I kept the very first one on there because it's atrocious. Like it is like the worst video I've ever seen in my life.
That's the first one I'm going to watch.
Yeah, you should, because then it gets better from there.
Oh, wow. This guy's an improver.
Yeah, right. And the next video, immediately I'm like, oh wow, this is a big difference.
Yeah.
And so, just learning that whole thing has been super fun for us.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool. Do you feel like you're going to be in Johnson City forever?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I always say I'm where God plants me until He says something else. But I really hope He doesn't, because I love it.
Yeah, I do too. I'm glad you're here. Yeah. So what's something I didn't ask you that I should have, that you want to share with our listening audience? Anything?
Didn't ask me. Well, I do have another job, I want to say. So I write. That's one thing I do. But the other thing, and what I spend most of my time doing, is I sell sheds at a place called AAA Quality Sheds. And it's in Elizabethton. Yeah. And it's funny because I
think I just had a client buy one for his house.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Perfect. Awesome. So it's funny because I work for it's a super awesome couple that took me in, and they took a chance on me, and fortunately I've been doing well, which is good.
Yes. Well,
but I didn't know anything about this business really. It was just a friend of mine. He was into it, and he was making some good money doing it in Maine. He's like, this is what you should do. I was like, well, I got to switch careers while I'm moving halfway across the country. So sure, let's try it. And
again, a God story, because if you switch careers, typically a lender's not going to give you money.
Yeah, exactly. That's another thing too. They're like,
I was just like,
a couple of things you do when you're buying a house.
Don't quit.
Switching a job is one of those. And I'm like, well, how am I supposed to get there and have a job? I just had to. So again, that's exactly how God provides.
Yeah, awesome.
So they've taken a chance on me. They do that, and I've been learning a lot about sheds, learning a lot about how they're built and everything. They're phenomenal sheds too, and it's awesome because I get to just meet all these great people from Johnson City, Elizabethton, the surrounding area. Yeah. That they're all super nice people, and it's just been great. Like I had a couple one time. I was sitting there and I sold them a shed, and they just sat for another 40 minutes. We just talked about life, and I was like, am I keeping you guys up or anything? And they're like, no, this is fine. This is what we do in Tennessee. We just hang out and talk.
That's awesome.
And so it's just been great. And so it's beautiful because I compare those two really well.
Yeah.
And when I'm not having customers, I get to write. And so when I get customers, I get to hang out with amazing people in
sell
the surrounding area.
But you can make custom ones. They only
sell. Yeah. We have custom made built sheds.
So you can have a she
build
shed,
them
a
themselves.
he shed. You can build whatever you want.
I actually make a joke constantly because my office, the one who owns the Elizabethton lot is the wife of the couple, and she decorated it like a woman would, obviously. So it's like a she shed.
Sure, she did.
But I'm the only one there now.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I make this joke.
It up
yeah, I'm
yourself.
like, well, I'm gonna work in my she shed today. So I'll tell customers, I'm like, come on into my she shed. They're like,
if somebody wanted to come see you at your she shed, where would you be?
So for those who are longtime residents of the area, it's right next to the Grind. It's across the street from Grindstaff Ford.
Yes.
But
I know
for
right
those
where you're at. I drive by there all the time.
Yeah. But for those like me who didn't know any difference that it was called Grindstaff forever,
right.
It's called Happy Valley Ford on the big giant sign up there. So I kept telling people that. They're like, is that the Grindstaff place? I'm like, I don't know, but I learned that. So that's why I say Grindstaff, Happy Valley Ford, whatever. It's right there. It's right across the street. Yeah. And a plus is the cheapest gas I've seen in town is that gas station right there.
And it's 100% gas.
Yes, that's true. They do have that too.
They don't have any of that ethanol stuff in there, which is great too. So
it is great.
Dude, well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. If you want to come see Chris, if you want to meet him in person, you can go see him in his she shed. How do you want listeners to connect with you if they don't come by the she shed?
Well, that's the best way.
That's the best way.
Come hang out there with me.
But there might be some people from Maine or California listening, and they don't want to drive all that way.
So I don't have any social media stuff at all.
Yeah.
So that was part of the whole deconstructing and quieting down everything. But the YouTube channel is perfect. If you go to Venturing in the Moment, and I try to keep up with comments on that and everything too. And so if you ever reach out to me on that, that's a great place to go.
Yeah. So. Awesome. Well, awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I enjoyed our conversation. I'm sure that our listeners have as well. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you for listening. Thank you for Chris listening and then coming to Johnson City to make it home. If you feel like that's something that the Lord's calling you to do, or you just feel like the itch to come check it out, I would love to give you a tour, show you all around Johnson City. And if you want to buy a house, sell a house, that's what we do. That's how we live indoors and eat food. So help us out. Until next time, I'm Colin Johnson with the Colin and Carly Group and Keller Williams Realty. Have a great fall.